Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friends of the Force. This is Bibo's Book Report, which is a limited podcast series covering everything about Star Wars Resistance. I'm your first host, Brad.
And I'm your other host, Sarah.
And folks, you're probably wondering, the Star Wars Resistance show is over. Didn't it end a couple weeks ago? But we didn't want the fun to stop there. And if you've been with us through all the many episodes and recaps throughout season 2 of the show, we're doing something a little different this time around and a little special today to keep that love for Resistance alive.
So joining us on the show today is an Emmy-winning voiceover artist, actress, and motivational speaker with over 35 years of experience. In addition to the thousands of commercials and narrations, she has voiced many iconic female characters in video games and animated television, including Poison Ivy in Batman Arkham series, Sniper Wolf in Metal Gear Solid, Shaak Ti in Star Wars The Clone Wars, and as it relates today to my favorite show, Star Wars Resistance, General Venisa Doza in Star Wars Resistance.
So without further ado, we are pleased to welcome Tasia Valenza to the show.
Hi. It's so
Thanks
nice
so
to
much
be
for
with
being
you.
on.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be with you guys, and thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Tasia. And this is just such an honor to have you. And as we were telling you before we went on air, Venisa Doza is just one of our favorite characters to come out of Star Wars Resistance. And she was such a pleasant surprise, especially in season 2. You know, you don't typically see a lot of new characters introduced in a final season of a show. And to get her was such a pleasant surprise. And she just has such a close place to our hearts.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same way about her. When I found out I got the part and then I saw the actual first episode I was in, I was like, oh, she's so cool. She's so cool. She's so cool, and she's also so brave and courageous, and she's got this badass kind of Han Solo sense of humor, but a heart of gold and just a beautiful, warm, but yet incredibly courageous warrior. And so it was just a gift to be able to play her, because, you know, sometimes you relate more to characters in your life depending where you are. And she has a grown daughter, and I have, 3 almost grown kids. And I have this kind of, connection of what it means to make that kind of sacrifice that she did. So long story short, which was obviously very long, I'm very honored to have been able to play her.
With Venisa Doza, I think it's pretty unique because, to my knowledge, we don't really get a whole lot of mother-daughter relationship dynamics in Star Wars, at least to like my remembrance right now. And I feel like Venisa and Tora was the first time we really got something. I was kind of moved to tears almost in the very first appearance of Venisa, when we could just get that emotional beat of Tora's birthday. She misses her mom. And that was just such a powerful thing. Did that, being a mom yourself, did that help influence the way that you voiced the character?
Oh, very much. I loved their relationship. It was, and Myrna is just an incredible actress, who played her daughter, and working with her and getting to connect with her was so moving. And yes, I was quite emotional when I played that, because again, I can relate as a mother to think that I wouldn't be with my children. I mean, I haven't been with them. They've been in camp on their birthdays, and I feel that pain. And to magnify that 1,000 times for their situation is pretty moving and very emotional. So I was delighted to convey that, and I'm glad it came across.
When you're approaching this role, I loved her so much, and because we only see her for a short amount of time, but she feels so fully realized. And I was wondering if you came at the character thinking about stories in your head, or if you found things from the script that you kind of picked up on. What was your process of kind of creating her and making her feel so real?
Well, as you know, it's all about the writing, and just in all the Star Wars, I think the writers are so phenomenal, and Resistance, they just gave so much depth, I think, to each character. And certainly for her, I tried to imagine, again, just, her sense of isolation and what she must have felt in terms of her responsibility to the Resistance to literally give up her family. I think I really just tried to honor that part, that her sense of duty and what it means to her people must have been so great that she could override even her own motherly instincts to leave her family. So that's really what I focused on to try to bring that honesty to the character.
You talk about how it starts with the writing, and I think you've had some live action roles, on All My Children, Star Trek The Next Generation, 21 Jump Street, but on an animated TV show when you're working with writers and episodic directors, you in particular, your episodes were involved with Bosco Ing, and Jennifer Corbett was the writer on 2 of your episodes. Did you get to work with them often, kind of like how on a live action project, the director's always on set every day with the writers? Is it kind of the same sort of collaboration, or how much does it actually differ with an animated TV show?
Oh, well, the brilliant actress director Mary Elizabeth was directing, and she was phenomenal. She was basically, the writers were there, but she was basically just at that point, conveying the information and really giving the behind the scenes and the direction and kind of really putting us into place. But I did get to meet Jennifer at the party. And she was, there was an after wrap party, and she was just delightful and wonderful. And they were, she was so wonderful in how she conveyed her love for the character. And we both quelled about that. So that was pretty cool.
That's pretty fantastic. I kind of want to jump, if you don't mind, to kind of the beginning of your career and just discovering your place in acting and your place in voice acting. And how did you first kind of discover or follow that passion to be an actor?
Wow. Well, I jokingly say that, I'm a recovering actress and a fully functioning voiceover artist because as an actor, you're always kind of damaged goods because it's such a hard career. But I started, at 15 acting, and I did that for 15, 16, 17 years. Basically was discovered by director Louis Malle for a movie called Crackers, which was kind of cool. Just because, one day I was in a play for high school, and the next day I was opposite Sean Penn in a movie. So that was a big life change. And then I went on to...
it's a quick transition.
Yeah. I'm just not going to go to school for 6 weeks. Woohoo,
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, I was on All My Children, which was pretty huge at the time, a soap opera that, nowadays is like, what is that? But it was...
No, I know it.
Right. But in the day of age of one television in a room, it was pretty, big. I mean, that was, we didn't have our own personal screens. So then I did that for 3 years, which was pretty, again, phenomenal to kind of get I really didn't have a lot of professional training. So to get my professional training while on the job, basically doing a play a day was pretty cool. And I did that for almost 3 years. Then I moved out to Los Angeles, and I did my bit like on Star Trek The Next Generation, and I call it my bad hair years because it was just a lot of big bad hair. I did that, and then
you can see the picture on your website too. You even got the ears.
Yes, for Tashanik, who was the first adult Vulcan in Star Trek Generations.
Yeah.
So that was a very cool episode to play. And then, my mom, who had originally was the one who encouraged me to be an actress because she had been a singer, she thought, I should do voiceovers. And I said, what is a voiceover? I didn't really quite get it, as many people didn't back in the day, when it was really a niche. And she, explained it and kept nagging me to try it. And I started doing some and realized, as I was doing more and more, that all of a sudden, this liberation of not being confined to what I looked like was just an amazing gift that I had never received as an actress, because so many times I knew that I had the talent and the skill set, but I wasn't tall enough or thin enough or blonde enough or all the enoughs that you're told as an actor, because so often it's about, looking the part. You just have to come in being the part in their minds. And so as a voiceover artist, that limitation is released. And the more I did voiceovers and the more jobs I got, and the more I didn't have to ask my agent. I mean, I actually got the part, which was always like, before it was like, did they like it? Did I get, even if I didn't get the part, did they even say anything? It was a lot of rejection. And so I realized, I I like this. And especially when I started getting to do animation, video games, I was still acting, but I wasn't no longer, again, acting with my body. And it was a really fun and liberating experience. So about 6 years overlap, I decided to just devote myself completely to voiceovers. I ended my on-camera career with another soap opera, 12 weeks on a soap opera, and it was like, yes, and I'm done. So it was a really lovely bookend, and I just decided to commit myself completely to voice acting, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, it seems like that's really opened so many more doors for you just being solely in voice acting. And I think, yeah, I was going to ask you, what really is the biggest difference? And I think you kind of already answered that. Do you think you feel like you made the right decision and, looking back, you really wouldn't have it any other way?
Oh, 1,000%. I feel absolutely in gratitude. There was a time, of course, that I feel like, wow, there was a part of me that thought I could have really been a really good actress and possibly had an Emmy or an Academy Award. That's that belief in yourself of like, oh, if I could have. I know that I made the right decision. And recently I had donated my voice for 2 years to the Wildlife Animal Sanctuary to help get awareness for their campaign, and I received an Emmy for it. So it was really just a sweet kind of confirmation of like, not only did I make the right choice for my life, because I married the love of my life and I have 3 beautiful kids, and still got to do my passion, which is to act through voiceovers, as opposed to being on a set for 12 hours a day or filming away from my family, which would have been very detrimental. Again, back to that, the difficulty of being an actor and maintaining a normal life, as it were. That was incredible to know that not only did I make that choice, and got to have the sweetness of making the correct choice for me, but I still won an Emmy, so that was really like, thank you, such a pleasure. So it was kind of a confirmation that yes, you can almost have your cake and eat it too.
I guess there's a really cool thing about, other than the flexibility of, maybe your work schedule or maintaining that life and work balance, but also kind of getting to return to the same universes a couple of times. And I'm speaking specifically for Star Wars here. Venisa is not the only role that you've played. So I'm curious to know, what's your history with Star Wars? If you have a history with Star Wars personally, if you grew up as a fan, how it's impacted you both perhaps as a fan and as somebody who's worked in this universe a couple of different times.
Great question. Of course, I got to play Shaak Ti in the Clone Wars, so that was one of my other characters that I got to share in the Star Wars universe, which was really meaningful to me because I thought she was, again, to play a Jedi, so much cooler. That's the great thing about these opportunities is I get to play these characters that are so much cooler than I'll ever be. So I feel like, once I've played them, they've left a little residue in me. It's like, maybe I do have the Force within me, even if it's just a little bit. And then as a personal, I was, in my teens, maybe even 11 when I saw my first Star Wars movie with my father. And I can remember exactly being in the theater and having that mind altering experience of something I'd never, been, as a child, especially back then, the movies, this was one of a kind. Next to that one, I guess, is something that otherworldly would be, in my childhood, would be E.T. But Star Wars, it was on a whole another level, and I was absolutely captivated, especially with the first three, which would be, of course, 4, 5, and 6. But they were, part of my childhood, and so when I got to play Shaak Ti, that was like, it was such a privilege, and then to be able to come back as Venisa, I feel very honored to be just a small part of this incredible legacy. So it's definitely been very meaningful for me to just to be part of this and part of the amazing group, Dave Filoni and his writers and the whole group. It's a very special, special group.
What's pretty unique is the Clone Wars came during a time when there were no more movies, and this TV show was for that next generation. It was for the kids that were growing up who still needed these stories. So what was the experience like of working on the Clone Wars, getting to collaborate with somebody like Dave Filoni, and just kind of knowing in the back of your mind that you get to play a part in this as Shaak Ti, as this next generation is coming into their own with Star Wars?
It's a very good question. And of course, at the time, I was just giddy like a child, like, oh my God, I'm going to play a like I said, a Jedi in the Clone Wars,
Hmm.
and I felt just uniquely honored to be able to that he felt that my voice and giving great voice was lent itself to that character. So um, that was incredibly exciting. Um, I don't think we even knew back then when I first got it, because I wasn't really as into social media because it was still, fairly new, how big it would become. So again, I knew it was part of the Star Wars, but it was, it's only, I think, after the fact that you realize, wow, this was really amazing to be part of something that at the time you're not as aware of how much of an impact it will make. So I just was excited to be part of, again, playing a Jedi, and also being part of this new connection to the movies. But I think only in hindsight, or maybe by the lost episodes, that it
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
because that's when you realize when it went away, and the fans went crazy, and they brought back the last episodes, that wow, this is really a big deal to be a part of something
Yeah.
this meaningful. So it's one of those things, I don't think you realize it in the moment. Working with Dave Filoni, he directed them at the time, and he was phenomenal, and just very, very easygoing. He's such a very, wise and kind of easygoing and funny, charismatic man. That's all I can say
Hmm.
about him. But he's not, to me, as he wasn't really hands on. Like, he really trusted you as the actor. He just seems to know what he's doing, and he picks good people, and he has a good time.
I have the utmost respect for him, and he just seems like such a genuine person. And to have him in the universe, Star Wars universe, making these stories, he's also got the best cowboy hat game in town,
Yes,
obviously, as well. That's
I
another
am a
thing.
lover of hats, so to enjoy his, I saw him at the wrap party, and he didn't have a cowboy hat on that night. It was kind of funny. Everyone was like, "Where's this cowboy hat?" I think it was a baseball cap that night, so he broke the
It's
mold
probably his
there.
Pittsburgh Penguins one.
Yeah, yeah.
You bring up the Lost missions, and those are some of my favorite story arcs, especially with how involved Shaak Ti is during that first 4 episode arc, the Fives arc. With the many appearances that Shaak Ti made throughout the series, about 20 episodes, were there any stories that really stuck out or resonated with you?
Um, that's a great question. I was actually, when I first did the ones where the clones were training, the early ones,
Hmm.
actually, I was really blown away by D. Bradley Baker playing all the clones.
Mm-hmm.
That was just so phenomenal to me, because I, as an actor to an actor, him giving such great life to the individual clones, and being able to give them a unique difference between each one, was so meaningful to me, just because I was blown away with his talent. As the character, I was definitely emotionally connected to the mystery of what was going on in season 6, with that implantation, and again the clones, to see the clones affected so negatively, and to see the humanity in the clones, which they didn't always get to be looked upon that way. That kind of came full circle for me. Working with an actor of D. Bradley scope, I was very moved by. So I guess I approached it from that level, to to see the humanity in my actor, and to be moved by that and respond to that as an actor. That always
Mm.
is very
Hmm.
exciting.
So, kind of looking between, Clone Wars and Resistance, when were you asked to join, or did you audition for Star Wars Resistance? And thinking about like the timeline, I think last Celebration in 2019, they were talking about having season 2 already done. Can you talk a little bit about how you joined Resistance, and also the wait between um, filming that, or recording that rather, and it actually airing for fans to see?
Ah, that was a good old fashioned audition, which again was delightful, because so little that we got to know about it. But it's very,
Mm.
very secretive when they send it to you. So it's like I don't even know if I knew for sure it was a Star Wars character at the time,
Oh.
because that's how they, they're very, very
Yeah.
below the line where it's very secretive. So I was truly excited to be cast in it, because it was more of, I found out after the fact. So I just
Mm.
loved, I just remember the Venisa character. I think they even called it a different character at the time, and gave the description of her and some of her lines. And I thought maybe it would be just based on the background of her, but it was a thrill to be. And then yes, it was very difficult because I think it was almost a year and a half from my first recording it that it was going to be airing. And it was very, couldn't say a peep, couldn't say a thing, couldn't share a thing. It was very hard. And so by the time I got back for the last 2 episodes, I was like, I'm so excited. When is it going to be out? And it was still like another 5 months. So,
Oh man.
yeah, it was that I've had to really. I'm not known as a quiet person generally, but I'm really, really good at keeping those particular things because I just know that that's what you have to do. And it was very
Yeah.
difficult because I so wanted to just sing to the top of the roofs, I'm back, I'm back, I'm back. And she's the coolest ever. But, had to just wait it out.
I really think Venisa Doza represents so much. And I mean, among her greatest qualities, I think she's brave. She has a great judge of character, especially seeing through Tam and knowing that she's conflicted on the inside. She sees that sort of larger picture that even though she's fighting, she knows she's doing it because it means peace for her family. And she's also like really just funny and laid back in a way. I mean, she gets captured by the First Order in the first episode and she's so nonchalant about the entire thing. And her and Torch have this great.
I was laughing. I was like, she's like a female Han Solo. She's just so like laid back and very
Yeah.
never gets flustered. And it's just like, I could picture her even before I saw a drawing of her, and it made me laugh. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait because that's so not me. I'm so the opposite. I'd be like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
So yes, she was such a. And yeah, her ability to see through people and have compassion. She would be able to fling out a line and yet, she could go from one side to the other in a flash. She could have compassion in 1 minute and then, have Tam put out, by her droid and be like, yeah, good job. So she was a wonderful juxtaposition to play.
Yeah, it's truly amazing to have her. And one of the lines that sticks with me the most is when she tells Tam, "We all make mistakes we have to live with, don't we?" And to me, it feels like a very personal line to her because she knows that she's probably made some mistakes in her past. And kind of like Sarah said earlier, we know there's so much more to her character, and we're very curious. And it just kind of excites us to think, maybe we'll get more of that character at some point. We would love to see more of her, but sometimes it's just left up to our imagination, and we know that she's probably been through some stuff.
Yeah, and it definitely when, as you say that, I'm thinking back about, when I said that line, if I probably wrote a note or two of what I meant by that in the script so that I could have a little bit of an underneath, background to it. The more you can give dimension and your own subtext of your life to it, the more it makes it come alive.
So kind of transitioning from this awesome character to another awesome thing that you're doing is giving great voice. And I watched the TED Talk today and I was so moved by it. It's been a little bit of a rough day for me and it actually picked me up.
So glad.
Yeah, it was really lovely to watch, and I'm ready to go stand in front of the mirror and use the bead method and all that. So what inspired you to establish this platform and talk about giving great voice?
Yes, this is my passion to share. It really came as an evolution of being able to do something that I've been so passionate about, which is to act and to voice act and to use my voice as an instrument and truly be blessed that I'm able to use it and love what I do and do what I love and recognize that along with 30 years of therapy and emotional intelligence, that the same thing that's helped me in my professional life has also aided me in my personal life, to understand that when we use our voices successfully in our roles, we have better relationships and better outcomes. So I related it that give great voice is to think like a voiceover actor in your own life so you can play your professional and personal roles more successfully. And I was teaching this notion to voiceover actors and then recognized that the same things can apply to non voiceover actors. If we can understand how to use our voices, especially nowadays when we're not using it nearly as much as we used to, or nearly as emotionally connected because of all of our other various means of digital communication, that it's more important than ever that we remember to use our voices to connect and move and touch someone that we care about with them. So I kind of compiled this 16-minute version of workshops that I've been doing and different classes, and basically made this TEDx talk to get it out to the world. Kind of a little like one-on-one voiceover tips that can translate into anyone's life, that they can use from students on up, right up to our roles as grandparents, and that it's all applicable, so that we can speak. The art of confident verbal communication is what I call it. So it's just a passion that I'm committed to sharing, and helping people to utilize their voices and feel confident in them, and then create really beautiful outcomes in their personal and professional lives.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of what you're doing is really beautiful, because I hadn't really thought of this whole concept of thinking like an actor in our own personal lives. And you talk about in this TED Talk, it's all about taking words off a page and breathing and speaking life into them. And, you bring up the magnificent, multifaceted me map, and how all those roles that you play are dependent on how you give great voice. You say your voice with a loving intention is truly a gift, and you'll never regret giving it. To end on that line was just so moving. What do you think ultimately, by giving great voice, like what can we find in our own lives that we might not have without that?
Well, right now, you and I and Sarah, we're all giving great voice to each other. We are connecting as humans. We're engaging with each other. We're laughing. We're hopefully inspired. We're moving each other. And it's an engagement that we're not only sharing with each other, but then you're going to share with your listeners and hopefully inspire and move them. We could not accomplish this with an email chain or or a text, right? It would not have the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so this engagement that we're having, this is something that needs to happen in every area of our lives. And the phone call is now, it seems antiquated, right? Or almost aggressive half the time. I mean, if I call a friend out of the blue, they're like, "What's wrong?" So I'm committed to this idea that it's hashtag it's cool to call, and that we can not only give great voice. It's a holistic triumvirate. First, you give great voice to yourself. By how do you speak to yourself? And so many of us, don't lift ourselves up as much as we tear ourselves down. So that's one thing. Then we use it for our roles. And when I say roles, I mean that I am Tasia unto myself, but then I'm Tasia a mother, I'm Tasia a wife, I'm Tasia a friend, a daughter, Tasia a voiceover artist, Tasia a speaker. And you guys are many roles too. And so if we understand ourselves as a role, then we ask these very simple questions that the actor asks. 4 questions. Who am I in the scene of my life? Who am I speaking to? What do I want? And how does my voice support that intention? So if we use that in every role in our life, every scene in our life, in other words, to play the role of the courageous, confident candidate, which I mentioned, is a role we have to play over and over. It's a universal role, right? You want to get the pitch, you need to get the job, you want to get into the school, you want to ask the girl or guy out, and these require to give great voice. It's really something that we can do it if we understand, again, these little tips of what's my intention. Is my intention to engender trust or to soothe or to cajole? Our voice follows our intention. So it really does behoove us to think about it and then practice, and then we can create the connections we want, whether that be professional to service, our roles as whatever goal we have, and also to connect with people we love and recognize that our humanity is predicated on our connection with each other. And that has to be, the best in person, and the next best would be our voices, but it can't all be digital. And that, our voice can touch us in a way no emoji can.
Yeah, and you brought that up in your TED Talk with, is it more powerful to say I love you versus like I heart you with a heart emoji in a text, Like we're kind of losing some of that sense of intimacy nowadays.
Yeah, and even more important to sometimes just say really with a heartfelt emotion, I'm sorry, as opposed to, I'm sorry with with the emoji, because you really don't get the benefit of seeing how that's landed. You basically just can write it off and say you're sorry, but you don't have to live with the emotions of how the other person received it. And I think that's something as humans we need to keep engaging with each other so we can keep our compassion and our empathy going with one another.
Absolutely.
This brings up another point that we discussed off air, but we live in a time of uncertainty right now. And with the coronavirus going around nowadays, it's actually more important than ever to give great voice, and how that can almost get us through these tough times as we have to distance ourselves possibly from the people around us and to go away from many of these social gatherings that people look forward to throughout the year. So it's like, what from your point of view can we do to give great voice during this time, and how can that positively uplift us in a time when we might feel lonelier?
That's a great question. And certainly I think we are at an unprecedented time in our history, certainly while I've been alive, that we are so isolated from one another physically. And that can, along with the anxiety of, the virus itself and what it means, and the health concerns, we are not able to gather in our favorite games and the those milestones of wedding and bar mitzvahs and all the social ways that we connect that do help us to feel connected, and all the things that I was talking about before, and feeling cared for and loved, and releasing all those good hormones like oxytocin and dopamine that come from human engagement. And not even being able to touch each other with a hug or a handshake. This is all antithetical to our need to connect as humans. And so the next best gift we can give is our voice. Because our voice, of course, again, we can use technology to use our voice with our faces. That's the upside. You can Zoom or FaceTime or Skype. But if not even that, just the sound of your voice, to pick up the phone and to call every single person that we love, as opposed to just Facebooking or texting them or snapping with them or Instagramming, all the ways we do that, which is wonderful for the superficial connection, and also keeping those that are really far close. But the ways we can really feel connected is through the power of our voices. Even if that means calling up someone and saying, I'm really scared and I'm anxious, and how are you feeling? And the other person saying that they're scared. It's better to me than being left alone with those feelings, and knowing that, we don't have those normal channels of getting together. It's even more important that we make an effort to use our voices, and all of us to override that it's they're going to think it's silly for me to call, or uncomfortable. Forget it. Just recognize, okay, we are in a new paradigm, and let's go back to AT&T. Reach out and touch someone with your voice. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel, that's a message I especially needed to hear today. And so I appreciate you saying all that. And I know we don't want to keep you for too long because you have so many people to call and to talk to and jobs to do. And I just want to ask you me and Brad ask you some rapid fire questions about some of your favorite moments and things, if that's okay with you.
Yes, if I can answer them intelligently, I will do my best. And if I don't, forgive me.
All good. First question is, do you have a favorite Star Wars Resistance character besides Venisa Doza?
Oh, I'm kind of Niku.
Niku!
I love him. He's so innocent and sweet. Besides my daughter and my husband, I love Niku because of his and Kaz. I love him too. I love those together, and yeah. I mean, those are, and Torah. I mean, I really am partial to those groups just because of their sweetness and their innocence and their kind of camaraderie really just warmed my heart.
We have a whole segment on this series called Niku Nirvana, and each week we would handpick a moment where Niku truly enlightened us. So we're very happy with your answer.
We're definitely fans as well.
Good. I'm glad I could. And he touches that inner childlike wonder that and sweetness and innocence that I think we all can relate to and makes us feel good.
So which Star Wars character do you think gives the greatest voice? So to apply some of your work to the in-universe.
Well, I do love Mark Hamill as a human being. Luke is fantastic. And then, I mean, Darth Vader, I think he gives great voice for what his intention is, which is to scare the bejeebies out of you. So I really, again, if I'm looking at who gives great voice for what their intentions are, I do love Luke for his nobility and his courage. And I love Darth Vader because he truly, to me, embodied singularly the best villain, I think, possibly of all time, at least for me in the Star Wars universe. And then I love Yoda because, again, he's so opposite of what you expect in a Jedi warrior, right? So I just these are all three different. Like, there's the ones that you expect, and he's so unexpected. But he's so fantastic that I love those three for giving great voice.
Kind of looking back over your career, do you have a favorite role that you've taken on, someone that's meant a lot to you?
That is a good question. I guess it probably depends on what period of my life. I mean, I loved playing Dottie on All My Children because she was a very mixed up and insecure teenager, and so was I. And so I loved being able to channel her and have compassion for her. And then as a voiceover artist, I loved some of the ones that I share most about, which would be Sniper Wolf. The ones that I've played, the Sniper Wolf and the Poison Ivies, because they're these multidimensional characters that could be considered villainesses, but because they have humanity behind them, and you can really find out why they do what they do, they're much less villainesses than those that believe that they maybe possibly misguided, but I love being able to lend humanity to these seemingly one-dimensional characters that aren't at all. And then, of course, again, Shaak Ti for her wisdom and to be able to channel that energy. And then I guess Venisa, like I said, because she's the most like I am in this lifetime that I could ever want to aspire to be. So I think it's really different characters for different times in my life and what I admire about them.
Fantastic. And our last question here, which we ask every guest, and we always get different answers, but what does Star Wars mean to you if you had to summarize it within a word or a phrase?
It means hope and magic.
Love it. Hope is everything in Star Wars. So, Tasia, thank you so much for coming on Friends of the Force today for Bibo's book report. And even though there was no book report done today, I think we definitely did a good job on ours. So,
well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So for our listeners, what other projects do you have coming up that you would like them to check out? And also, where can people find some of your other work, whether it's social media or a website?
Yes. Well, in terms of ongoing, right now, I just have a cool narration. If you're into true murder, which is My Murder on Discovery ID, true crime. Some people love that genre. In terms of anything in the animation world, I'm not allowed to share, of course, until it actually comes out. But other than that, I'm really passionate about sharing the TEDx talk because I truly would love to inspire people to use their voices. And I'm also going to be doing more workshops for giving great voice and going to schools as soon as we could travel again, of course. But I'm going to be doing webinars. So it's really something that I'm passionate about taking and giving. I also do, voiceover classes in LA and stream and also privately. But I really to help people to tap into their ability to give great voice is kind of really what I'm passionate about right now. And it's all about being of service.
For those of you listening, make sure to check out her TED Talk video. It was really, really inspirational. I think something we could all listen to be uplifted right now. So
thank you. And it's Give Great Voice, or you can put it in the notes, but it's Give Great Voice, the remarkable power of tone and intent. And you can find me on social media on TasiaValenza.com or Tasia Valenza, the Instagram, and all the other ones are just under Tasia Valenza, and or Give Great Voice if you want to check out that site. So it's pretty obvious, Tasia Valenza.
Perfect. Well, we really appreciate you coming on today, and we hope many of our listeners really felt some passion with your career and just what you felt for these characters that you've played. And again, thank you just so much from the bottom of our hearts. It was great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Brad and Sarah, you were just fantastic hosts. And as I said before, you give great voice. So thank you so much for inspiring me and allowing me to share.
Well, thanks for taking some time out of your day to talk with us and give us all of your wisdom. And I'm really excited to share giving great voice with other people in my life and hopefully embody some of those qualities myself.
Oh, thank you. I have one more share that I wanted to say that I forgot, in the spirit of giving great voice to ourselves, I actually created an affirmation meditation app called Haven. I co-created it and I co-wrote it with a friend and voiced it. And it is completely free. And it is a self-kindness app that I would just love to share again in this time of great anxiety. Anything that we can do to soothe and calm ourselves is an offering I would like to make. And it's called HAVEN, Haven Guided Affirmations, and you can find it in either app store. And it's just something, again, that in the spirit of giving great voice, that I want to offer.
Excellent. Well, Tasia, once again, thank you so much for coming on Friends of the Force today. And with that being said, may the Force be with you.
And with you. Yeager, you don't mind if we park here, do you?
For you, Venisa, I think we can make some room.
Wait, that's Venisa Doza?
Mom! You made it! Hi, wingmate. It's been too long.
Way too long.
I'm glad you arrived safely.
Was there any doubt, Emmanuel?
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to our very first Bibo's Book Report interview. It was such a pleasure to have Tasia Valenza on the show, Venisa Doza herself. But with that being said, make sure to go, again, check out her TED Talk video and visit her website and also download that meditation app that she has as well. So with that, Sarah, where can our good Bibo's Book Report listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Letterboxd at SEH221. And I would like to remind you in these trying times to be kind to one another, drink water, and since it's voting season, go vote whenever you are able.
Absolutely. And also relevant to today's episode, give great voice to somebody in your life. And I think it'll all make us feel quite a bit better.
Yeah, Brad, expect a lot more phone calls from me.
And as for here at Friends of the Force, you can find us at Friends of Force on Twitter and Friends of the Force on Instagram. You can also join our Patreon at patreon.com/Friends of the Force. Thank you to Aldrinian Rose, Neil Lowry, Royal Farm Boy, Rachel, Cheryl, T, and Michael Condon. And lastly, we are a part of the Star Wars Escape Pods Network, which aims at promoting positivity in the Star Wars fandom. So it's great to bring Bibo's Book Report back into the Friends of the Force playlist for you all. Hopefully, we will be back with some more interviews. Time will tell. But Sarah, I don't want this series to end. The Resistance love train doesn't stop.
It's my fave.
And for all of you out there listening, thank you once again. And we are all ones with the Force. We're all friends of the Force. And may the Force be with you always.
Bye.